That's a solid football team.
And
I like that football team a lot.
They had a solid game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
If no one has heard of Des Bryant, their superstar wide receiver, he's going to be the first receiver chosen in the upcoming draft. The kid,
you think so?
That kid's that good. Well, remember, Crabtree's only a sophomore.
Yeah, you think Crabtree's going to stick around though?
No, he's only a sophomore though. He can't go in the draft. He can't go in the draft. He's only a sophomore.
So,
he has
you
to
can
be
only
a junior.
go when you're a junior. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Either you're a junior, or you have been in school for 3 years. Because remember, Larry Fitzgerald went as a sophomore, but he went to a prep school first, and then went 2 years in college. So he was able to do that because he was 3 years out.
I'd agree with you. Then he will be the top receiver.
But we talk about that play though. Harold to Crabtree. It was by far. I think that would rank in my lifetime. And remember, I'm a little younger than most of the people. In my lifetime, that will be a play that will stick into the minds of college football fans for a long time. And, Graham Harrell, after the game, did talk about that exact play after the game when he was on the desk along with Lee Corso and Chris Fowler on the post game after that.
It's just the 4 verticals. We run 4 verticals all the time, and the DB wasn't looking at me. And if he's not looking, Coach says throw it behind him. So we threw it behind him, and Crab made a play. He's an unbelievable receiver, as you can see right there. They can't tackle him. He's the best in the country. There's no doubt. He's the best receiver in the country. He made a play on the ball. We got a big win.
Now, you look at some other things that had occurred during that game. And let me just read off some of these stats to you, Todd, because I'm not sure if you looked at the box score or anything afterwards. But listen to some of the stats here. First down battle. Texas Tech had 13 more first downs than the Longhorns. 31 first downs.
Wow.
On your offensive progress, your offensive output, 31 first downs. You were 8 for 16 on third down. That was a big portion of why Texas Tech was able to win that game, because they were able to sustain the drives on third down and continue that progress and continue to put points on the board that way. Because if you're winning the third down battle, chances are you're going to end up winning the football game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you can do that, and just think about what you said. Was it 31? You said
31 first downs to Texas
first down
18s.
To Texas's 18 against Texas. This wasn't like they played some small little Texas school. This was the University of Texas that has been running roughshod over everyone. I was thoroughly impressed last night. I said it. Hey, again, 2 weeks now, I've just been thoroughly impressed with Texas Tech and what they've been able to do. And that's kind of Big 12 football. We kind of Ryan touched on earlier. I also had questions about Texas, and then they beat Oklahoma, and they went on this tremendous run where they looked untouchable for 2 to 3 weeks. Then they need another big. It's the Big 12. I couldn't agree more. It's amazing. It's so. I mean, to me, it's just so much fun to watch. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, and I don't know. I love the game that I saw on the field, but I'm going to go back to it again. I think one of the coolest things last night was just how intense that crowd was. I mean, you want to talk about a home field advantage?
Yeah, they were.
That was nuts last night.
Well, they were intense, and in case you did not watch this game, first off, shame on you if you didn't watch it, but the fans were actually taking out portions of the seating in the bleachers and throwing it onto the field. And then, the best part of all this, when Crabtree had caught that pass and was able to split the defenders and score on the touchdown that eventually won the game for Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
There was 1 second, remember. Fans stormed the field.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wait, there's still 1 second. They're reviewing the play to make sure you stayed in bounds.
All we needed was the band on the field.
Exactly. But they roll off. As soon as they review it and say, yes, it's confirmed it was a touchdown, they storm the field again. Once again, they have to get off the field because there's still 1 second left in the game, and they still have to get the extra point. Extra point is kicked for a third time. They storm the field. They still have the 1 second on the clock, and they have to go off the field again for a third time. Finally, when the game was over, they had to look at each other first, and then realize, okay, now it's good to storm the field. Exactly. I thought, wow. I appreciate the enthusiasm and the passion you have for how great of a game that was, and that your Red Raiders were able to win that game. But yeah, I had to take some lessons on how to storm the field at first, 3 times you tried to storm the field and the game wasn't over yet. But, you poke a little fun of that, and I'm sure, Billy Bob Ray was definitely wanting to crack the Coors Light onto 50, right then and there through hell or high water. But at the same time, it was a great win for the Raiders, and now they thought that game was tough. They got Oklahoma State, who just blew out Iowa State, blew them out of the water.
Yep.
And then go to Oklahoma, who made Nebraska their whipping boys of the night. And it's going to be a tough test for them, but it is going to be interesting how that's going to shape out. A game that was not so thrilling, but was being billed as a game that, what were we going to see here? Oh, the expectations and the anticipation of the Florida-Georgia game. What was Florida going to do in retaliation to Georgia's disrespect of clearing the bench on the first touchdown of the game last year? I think a 49-10 throbbing of the Bulldogs is a pretty good retaliation.
Excuse my language here, but the reaction was a foot in the ass.
Yes, it was. And
that was nuts.
And then, of course, Tim Tebow breaking the single career rushing record of the University of Florida with his 37th rushing touchdown of the game. So, okay, the Gators had that slip-up against Ole Miss a couple weeks ago. Now you look in the AP. They're all of a sudden right back in it. They're in the top 5 now. They're ranked 4th. Bama's 1, Texas Tech is 2, Penn State's 3, Florida is 4th, and Texas is still ranked at number 5, which I was glad to see. I wasn't sure if I was going to see it that way because I didn't think Texas Tech was going to get the big spike that they got. But, with Texas Tech now jumping up there, it knocks out USC and Oklahoma out of the top 5. Because remember, they were in the top 5 this past week, and even though they had won, and they won significantly, they get knocked out of there. Where do you see Florida? Because obviously they're going to be in the SEC East.
Yeah.
They're going to be representing that division against Alabama in the SEC Championship. If they do win that game, they win the SEC Championship. And I'm not going to say there's going to be an undefeated Big 12 team. I don't see it happening. But, we'll say a one-loss Big 12 team, a one-loss SEC team, and the possibility of an undefeated Penn State in the Big 10. Good luck trying to figure that one out to put into the national championship because you want to be known as the guys that kept Joe Paterno's Penn State Nittany Lions out of the BCS, out of the national championship. You want to be known as that guy. And that's good luck with those polls and trying to figure that one out. That's just me, in my opinion.
Yeah, my personal take on it right now, this week, if the season ended right now, there is no question in my mind that whoever the winner of the Big 12 is should be playing Florida in the national title game. Because to me, whoever comes out of that Big 12...
So you would leave out an undefeated Penn State?
Yeah. If you want to put Texas Tech at the top of the bill right now, and the season ended right now, it should be Texas Tech and Florida playing for the national championship. To me, there's no question that the two best teams in the, they will be the two best teams in the country. What Florida did last night was ridiculous, and I think you're going to see the same thing again next week. I don't think they're the underdogs next week. I think Alabama's the underdog in next week's game.
And you know what? I'm actually glad that you answered it that way, because I don't know if you had a chance to listen last week, but to me, this is the reason why, and you've known me for a little bit, and I was one of those guys that said, well, the regular season of college football, that's the playoff, that whole ordeal. And then the more I started thinking about it, and the more I've seen these past 2 college football seasons unfold the way they have, I've been more and more of a proponent of getting a playoff into this system.
Yeah.
Because you're having these types of games where, yes, okay, and it's a good point. It's a very valid point, and it's very hard to argue against that. But,